Today, we're talking about cereal packaging.
I pity the poor fool. Don't eat my cereal.
And if you're designing packaging, this is just a good conversation to listen to in terms of like what works in an aisle, what doesn't work in an aisle, maybe some of the things that we've seen that can apply to other industries. So it's not just for cereal packaging, but it's great to break down one type of packaging so you get design and printing. Hey, thanks so much for joining us on Packaging Unboxed today. You've got me and Adam. If you're new to the channel, I've spent the last 15 years working with luxury brands to bring new packaging to the market, as well as speaking all over the world on packaging design and how to improve your packaging. Tell us real quick, Adam, what do you do?
Yeah, so I've been in packaging, procurement, and design and sales for the last 17 years. I've hosted a podcast about packaging for the last 6 years, did a TED Talk about packaging, wrote a kid's book about packaging. So been in the packaging space for a while, and I think it's awesome.
Because we started in the cereal aisle, I mean, it's got to be like the most overwhelming aisle in the grocery store. I mean, everything looks the same. So I know you went down an aisle. What store did you go down?
So I went to Kroger, which is called Smith's. It's a Smith's here in Salt Lake City where I live. And, the interesting thing is the placement of the cereal aisle. I've realized I never really consciously thought about the fact that the cereal aisle is usually kind of in the middle of the store. Mm-hmm. Being a staple, you sort of have to go, to the middle of the store. And then if you want to get to like the milk and the eggs and everything, that's usually in the back of the store. I never like consciously thought through like, what am I passing in order to get to the cereal aisle? And what types of branding opportunities or even co-branding opportunities might be there for some of these cereal brands as you're walking towards it. I don't know. What was it like for you?
I went to an AJ's grocery store here in Phoenix. It's like the higher end grocery store that we have. Our cereal aisle is really short. So like typically if you go to like a Kroger or Fry's, those cereal aisles go forever. Mm-hmm. And at an AJ's, it's a smaller brand, smaller store. It's probably a quarter of the length. So you got to think they've got to pick, they've got to really reduce who they're putting on shelf, and they've got to put the ones that sell the most. So I thought that was kind of an interesting thing as well. And it was right in the center.
Yeah.
When you went down your aisle, does everything look the same? Did everything look the same to you?
100%. Yeah. That was the very first thing that I realized. Again, I've been buying cereal for a long time. I have 5 children. We buy a lot of cereal. It's one of my favorite meals. I love cereal. Can you call it a meal? Is cereal a meal? It feels like it is.
According to Kellogg's, I think it's dinner.
I celebrate cereal at every point of the day. So, but I guess I just never fully, again, was like thinking through this from the standpoint of let's create a packaging podcast. And I was shocked at the sameness and the conformity. There is a tremendous amount of conformity in the cereal aisle, and not a lot of brands that were doing things to stand out. The other thing I thought was interesting is in my cereal aisle, the giant bags of cereal were at the front of the aisle, towards the front of the store, versus when I remember when I was growing up, those are usually towards the end of the aisle. And it was usually the cereal that people did not want, right? It's the cereal the parents wanted to buy because of cost reasons or whatever, but the kids never wanted.
Tina, eat.
Now it seems as though there's been a shift in terms of the merchandising of that, at least again, where I live in Salt Lake City. So that was what I noticed. It was kind of boring. It wasn't like inspiring from like a design or packaging standpoint.
99% of the cereal is like in a box. And it's a flat box, 4-color printed. There's no additional texture. There's no like UVs or emboss or any kind of processes like that. That doesn't happen. So everything is super smooth. And then you've got like the stand-up pouches for some of the smaller cereals, some of the new protein cereals. That's like a new form factor in that section. And then you've got the big bags that are like the size of a pillow.
Yeah.
Right. And those are the ones that previously, like when I was young, you didn't want to buy those because those were the own brand. Those were the store brand generic version of Trix. And it was like, Chicks. I don't know what it was like. It didn't taste good.
Right.
It wasn't quite there. And if your friends came over, they'd be like, "Oh my God, he's poor." Right. Like that's what it was.
Kind of what it was. Yeah.
But now they've got like the big brands in the bags, and it's like, all right, cool. Look, now I've got a 5-pound bag of, Cinnamon Toast Crunch or whatever.
I prefer that, honestly, now that, we have to feed a small army in our house, but we have all the refillable containers that are in our pantry. And so I actually prefer to just buy the bag. I mean, you're gonna have to put it in a bag anyways. I would much rather just buy the bag and then refill the stuff in my house. And then I think a lot of it is recycle ready, and you can take it back to the store and put it in the recycle bin at the front of the store for flexibles. And so to me, there's even a pretty big sustainability story with that. I'm pro sort of the bulk cereal buying, just in a bag. I think it's a good iteration versus the box, which just does go for days, and it's just sort of blinding to me. It seems it could be a bit unnecessary because unless you were just going to put it directly into the box and not have the bag, and then obviously the box is going to be highly recyclable. So I don't know. I was in favor of that. That was probably the positive thing for me, was seeing more of the bulk buying towards the front from a sustainability. You're shipping less air because you're able to fill those things up a lot more. There's nothing more disappointing than getting a mega size or whatever is the newest phrase, and you open it up and you're like,
Yeah. What's all that air in the bag called?
Headspace, I think.
No.
What's it called?
I don't know, but it's not Headspace. I think it's like oh man, I wish we had JQ on. He would tell you what it is. I think it's like Slack fill.
Slack fill?
Man,
I don't know.
All right, so if you're listening, you know this, put it in the comments, because obviously we don't know.
It's not my world. I don't know what it's called, but maybe I'm just in my own headspace thinking about it.
Headspace is the space between the product and the box. Like if you're doing like a phone, the space up there that you're accounting for.
So I'm not crazy.
No, you're not crazy. But it doesn't. I don't think it applies to cereal and chips that settle. But all right, so you went down the aisle. You've got a video. We're gonna throw up a video here on YouTube. So definitely, if you're listening to this, go to YouTube and watch this. When you walk down that aisle, like what was the stuff that stood out to you the most?
Yeah, so I talk about this in the video. I'll start with a negative. The thing that caught my eye in a negative way was it was Golden Grams, and they had a retro box, and then they had, and it was merchandise right next to the regular box, and the retro box says "made with real honey." And to me, the very first thought I had was, what is in the other box? Because it does not say made with real honey on the other box. And so the first thing that was triggered to me was, well, there's some sort of like fake ingredients. Now, maybe it had it, maybe it didn't, but I'm just saying that's your primary display panel. You have some limited edition packaging, and you're going to highlight something that is a negative for the rest of your brand if it's in fact not true. So I thought that was bad. I've referred to this before in some other podcasts, but I call it it's like the McDonald's made with all real white meat chicken nugget campaign they had when I was like in high school. And I just realized my first thought then was, what have I been eating? If it hasn't been all real meat in these chicken nuggets,
like real meat now. Yeah.
Right. Like you're saying it's in now, like it's a good thing. And I'm thinking like, uh-oh. Do I need to go get screened for cancer or something? Like, this is insane. So that I thought was a negative. The positive, at least the one that caught my eye, in the I already talked about the bag stuff. But the one in the box that caught my eye was actually the protein box. And I think it caught my eye literally because it was at eye level. I thought it was merchandised well. It was right at the beginning of the boxes. Premier Protein. I don't know if they paid for that spot or whatever, but in big bold letters, it just talks about, it was like 20 grams of protein. And there's a big push to getting more protein into your diet. We're seeing this come up more and more and more. And so to me, that was a win because they highlighted it and it just jumped out. It's not going to land with kids, obviously.
Right.
And you saw more of the brands, like there was like a Trix that turned the milk a different, like a mystery color. And I was like, that sounds disgusting. I don't.
Yeah. As a parent, you're like, what are they putting in here that's going to change? Obviously the color of milk changes with cereal, but
yeah, it was gross to me. And I'm like, and so to me, I could see the battle happening between the parent and the kid, where the kid's just like, this would be so cool. And, the mom or the dad is like, this is gross, put it back. I'm not buying that. So that was on the gross side for me in terms of like packaging that stood out. But so those were some of the, I don't know, the lowlights. And then the one highlight was good job to Premier Protein for featuring a benefit on the primary display. They didn't try to get too creative with like a giant muscle person or anything. It was just, here's our protein content. It was big and bold and caught my eye.
Yeah, I know when I walked down the aisle, so like the first thing I saw was there's a lot of yellow. Like there's a ton of yellow on these cereal. Even from like the better for you aisle, like the Ezekiel 4-9, I don't know what that is. It's like John 3:15 or something.
No, those are different. Ezekiel's from the Old Testament, not in the New Testament where John is.
There's Trix 4:16.
That is not in the Bible.
But like as I go down, there's a ton. Like the Ezekiel cereal is yellow. There's like Sunday Super Sundays or Sunday Sevens, shredded wheat, Raisin Bran. Like there's yellow on all these. Captain Crunch, Cheerios, Pops. It gets in like they're all yellow, which is, I'd never really looked down this aisle and looked at it from a packaging perspective because it's so terrible. But that's like a big constant. So one, if you're trying to stand out on shelf, see what's on there, and don't do that. Right? If everybody's yellow, don't be yellow.
Right.
Be the opposite of yellow, right? Which is like purple. Then you've got like Fruit Loops, Captain Crunch, Cocoa Puffs, Rice Krispies. They all have a big size mascot, Raisin Bran. Like they have a big mascot right in the middle. Then the bowl of cereal at the bottom. Then you've got like the brand name, and then some type of call out, whether it's crunch or berries or honey. It's the same template across all of them. And I know that most of these are owned by the same companies, but they're still competing against each other. Right? It's either you're going to buy Raisin Bran or you're going to buy Captain Crunch. I don't know who's going to buy Raisin Bran, but
I like Raisin Bran
over Captain Crunch.
Keeps me regular.
But that, these are the things you've got to consider. And then color. Lucky Charms really does stand out in the red. There's not a whole lot of red. There's like shredded wheat.
Gosh, you really were in like the bougie store.
No, but like they have this stuff in regular stores like Wheaties and stuff. But like
yeah. But like there's not a lot. I think some of the brands that you're talking about have gotten squeezed out, or at least put in a different like natural food aile as inflation.
Even at my Kroger, that like these are all next to each other.
Yeah, bro, you live in Scottsdale though, so
that's true, man.
No, I was actually surprised that we don't have that at Smith. It used to be there. There used to be a section, and that section has gotten smaller and smaller and smaller as inflation hit, to be totally candid. So that shelf space got eaten up by the more cost-effective brands.
I'm looking at your video here, and seeing if I see those in there, but
they're not. They were kind of down towards the end, and there was a dad sitting there with his kids, and they were talking about something, and I didn't want to have them on the video. There was a few spacings, but that space used to be more in our store, and it's gotten smaller as
they're expensive.
As price pressure hits. Yeah. And if you're a supermarket, you're operating on razor thin margins. 100%. And so if you can't be turning product on your store shelves, then that product that's not turning is gone. And the retail space is absolutely brutal. And it's why packaging plays such a big role, is because if it's not drawing attention, if it's not creating a moment where somebody can stop and pick it up, you can't sit for too long, or else that contract is cooked. You're out of that store.
No, I mean, that's a great point. I just had Richard Taylor on from Brandon Consultants over in the UK. We were kind of talking about this. Like a lot of people are like, oh my God, I just got funding for my new cereal brand. I'm going to be on shelf in 200 Costco's, and it's like a big pump and excitement. And yeah, of course, you're the founder. You've got a pump, but that's not the goal. Getting on shelf isn't the goal. You got to move through product. And there's a ton of packaging design out there where people are like, this is like the new hip design. It's like the yassification of branding, and it doesn't matter how cool your packaging is. If it's not selling, that store's going to just push it out. It's going to discount it, move it out, and they'll move on to the next version of you from another founder, and you're screwed. So you really have to consider all these little details, because this is what makes your packaging stand out. Whether you're in the cereal aisle, whether you're in like the peanut butter aisle, it doesn't matter. Like all these different things really matter. You have to compete. And it's not just about how cool of a pack you have. It's, are you hitting the key things, right? Branding, benefits, whether it's better for you better for you product or not. There's got to be some kind of benefit to it, whether it's shredded wheat or cinnamon toast. The one that stood out to me most, good or bad, but this was horrible, was Cinnamon Toast Crunch. And it's because it has a K-pop star on here where the photography is horrible. It looks like I took it with my iPhone or pulled it from a video still. He's super pale. Fine. Nothing against pale people.
Yeah. Thank you.
But,
Thank you.
but the background is pale. The background is the color of his skin. And then he's got like bleached blonde hair. Fine. But there's no contrast between this human and the box. And he's wearing like a white shredded shirt, like it's for shredded wheat or something. And again, he doesn't stand out. It just looks like he looks like a dead body on this box. If that's
and
what
he's like kicking, he's like kicking out of the box. So you can't even see like his feet.
And you can't see his arms coming out, and it looks like he's coming out of the bowl. But I think the biggest thing here is color and contrast. It's fine. You know, Cinnamon Toast Crunch has purples. They've got greens and blues and reds, and the cereal's like brown. Like they could have darkened up that background instead of staying with the standard pale color, so that he then has contrast, that he then stands out and doesn't look sickly, which is what the background does. And it's like, do I want to feed my kid this? I don't know. It just looks weird. I would rather pick the regular.
Do you think that the reason for a lot of this stuff is just because the brand recognition is so strong for something like Cinnamon Toast Crunch or Wheaties or Lucky Charms? Even like going back to our last video with like, brands like Oreo and Coke, like they have such solid brand equity that it's not going to show up in their data, because people are just going to go buy the Cinnamon Toast Crunch because that's what their kids like, and it almost doesn't matter. But maybe they see like the slightest little uptick, and then somebody in marketing at General Mills goes, well, look, we sold X amount, because if they have a 1% increase, the sheer dollars is much higher. And they go, look, this was a win. And they might be right. I don't know, but from a design perspective, it's really bad. I totally agree with you. I just don't know. Does it matter for a brand like Cinnamon Toast Crunch? Like, do we think it really honestly matters?
I don't know, because it's like you have the limited edition K-pop box right next to the standard everyday box. So, and they both cost the same, and it's the same amount of product. So I'm just buying one over the other because of the box. Now, if I'm a K-pop fan, I would probably want to see my, K-pop guy look a little bit better than he's showing up on here.
Right? But you're still going to buy it, aren't you?
I don't know. I'd probably buy the big bag.
If you're a K-pop fan, I mean, listen. I know you're a big sports person, and so you can really resonate with this. But Wheaties and athletes, like that's been a thing for a while, and I would even argue was one of the very first sort of like influencer brand connections, when you would be on the cover of a Wheaties box, and that was a really big deal. And I don't know if the print, as a kid, I didn't know if the printing was good or not, or if it landed or whatever. Okay. I just knew that my favorite person was on the cover of the Wheaties box because they had just won the NBA championship or the Super Bowl or whatever, or the Olympics, whatever it was. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to get that box. I didn't even collect them. I just wanted to have it because it was the same price. I'd be curious if K-pop is not my genre. I'm not the target market for this, but I would be curious if it's like, well, it's good enough and the kids are going to buy it anyways because it's got whoever this K-pop person is. I don't know who they are, but maybe they're the biggest star in the world and I have no idea. Mm-hmm. And just the fact that like their face is on the front. That's how bad this is. I'm pretty sure it's a male face, but I don't know. I don't know because of how like weird the photography is and because of the way they put things. But like whoever this person is, maybe they're such a big deal that people are just going to scoop up that box like the Wheaties box. I don't know.
I'm sure their fans will know. And then there's like a plus X plus on the bowl, which I'm sure has to do with the brand, the band, the name. But when I put that next to even just like a shredded wheat or a special K, those two standard boxes blow this one out of the water because it's just so pale looking. So again, if you're launching a product, it's got to sell. You've got to make sure it stands out. So look at what's on the shelf. Again, the one thing you don't see on this aisle is gloss one, I think it's for cost purposes. They're just running this stuff so quickly that you get to pick any type of material as long as it's the same. What is this, like a CCNB, like a clay coated newsprint?
A lot of it's like a clay coated craft, which is like either recycled or clay coated newsback is typically what it is. I would wonder if this is also made with water based inks, because you can get UV migration into the inside of the box, and so when you open up the box, even though there's the bag on the inside, so the product is probably going to be
safe,
held all right. Yeah. But if you open up the box and it smells like UV, that is a disaster waiting to happen for a brand. So I would be curious if they were just going with water-based inks and not doing any of the spot UV stuff just for that reason. There are low migration and non-odor. You could do something with it, but to your point, some of these brands are just making this stuff so fast. It's just like, there's no reason.
Yeah. The other thing I didn't see any QR codes on the front of these boxes. Like, why are we not making these things more interactive? Mm-hmm. Right? I know we just had Chobani on, they're creating games and things that are, the number of people that played those games was insane. When I was a kid, you'd sit there and you'd look at the back of the box, for hours, right? You'd sit there and like do the puzzles and read.
That was our iPad.
The ingredients. Yeah. It was our iPad. Why not? Kids today don't look at the back of the boxes. Like, we don't even have the back of the box in my house. Like,
I do.
Really, mine don't. My kid actually takes the boxes and cuts them up and builds things with them. Yeah. Never even looked what's on them. But
sometimes mine do, but it's not nearly as. It was a thing.
Yeah,
there were mazes and trivia games and crossword puzzles, and
I mean, if you're a brand out there specifically targeted towards kids, kids are on phones. No matter how much we tell them no, not to be on phones, they've got phones. Why not make this a standalone QR code? With QR codes, you can update the information that it feeds you. So it can be the same QR code on all the boxes. Just every month, you update the game, or every 2 weeks, you update the game. Right? You partner with like a Minecraft or something. You create, you partner with, a game maker and change it up, keep it interesting so that they have to come back. And, if that cereal runs out, they have to buy it so they can get that QR code again so that they can scan it and they can keep going with the game.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you have to gamify this stuff today, because it's so easy for a kid to be like, oh, I like, Cinnamon Toast Crunch. I like Pops. Maybe this time I'll get Pops. Maybe I'll get Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Or as parents, you run out of cereal and you don't buy it for a while until your kid complains.
It's a great idea, and is going to be, I got to get the exact date on this, but there's going to be a crossover. This is, I think, useful information for every brand, but the 2D UPC barcode is going away in retail stores. They are moving to a matrix QR style code that is awesome news for a brand, because it can function as a scan. So it'll scan at the checkout. You can also build in potentially digital coupons into that. So they don't have to have a physical coupon, but you can also have it so that when it's scanned with a phone, it can do different things than the barcode scanners at the store. So I think we're going to see the augmented reality world expand. And so why wouldn't you start that now with your brand, so that people are used to doing that? Because you're right. Kids have their phones sitting at the table as much as we don't want it to happen, or they have their iPads. You have an opportunity there, and you may as well use it. It's very real. And creating shareable moments, creating games, creating all that stuff is already happening. It's not hard to go find these companies that are out there doing it. And it's not that expensive. It used to be really, really expensive. Like that 19 Crimes, that wine label was insanely expensive for them. That's not like that anymore.
Not at all. And, and if you think about it, hopefully your kids have friends. They're all going to school at the same time. They're all getting up around the same time. So, if kid one is playing a game at 7:00 in the morning and you want them to connect with another friend that's playing the same game, well, that other friend has to buy the same cereal, right? Like, now you've got this pressure that you're putting on the other kids. Say, hey, I'm playing this game, so much fun. You should play. How do I play it? I've got to get this QR code from cereal X, and you start spreading it, right? Because you can't just gamify. You've got to make it socially viral, and this stuff kind of pushes that.
Great. Are we going to see like a word game? What's Wordle? We're going to have like a Wordle cereal
Yeah, with like
combo where it's
alphabets.
like,
Wordle with alphabets, right? Do they even make alphabets anymore? I don't even know.
oh, that would be genius.
Right? They can send us. They can send their checks to us.
Yeah.
But I don't know. That again, that's just like beyond packaging. And I remember you posted on a peanut butter brand, right? If we kind of move into like for the form factor and breaking the mold of the form factor, you'd posted a peanut butter brand that was putting their jars upside down, right? They were putting the labels on their jars upside down so that when they got on shelf, the jar was upside down, the lid was on the bottom, looked completely off and stood out in the shelf. It was the same jar as everybody else, right? It was just upside down.
Yep. They literally just changed the unwind position of the label to be, instead of a 4, a number 3. It's the simplest thing. It's like the simplest innovation, but landed and people love it because it's an all natural. So the oil goes to the top, but in this case, it goes to the bottom.
Yep.
And so when you open it up, stirring, it's a lot easier. I thought it was awesome. I can't even remember the name of the brand, but
so if you take that idea, not necessarily the flipping upside down, but just changing one small thing, like what's one small thing that you could change in the cereal?
I would love to see cereal experiment a little bit more with the form factors. So one idea would be like a larger version of, well, think about like the goldfish boxes that you can sort of, that are made with like out of like a Tetra Pak material. Those have some foil board and stuff in it, but where you can open it up kind of like the old milk things where you pull it and then you can pour it and then close it back up. That would be, you'd only have one piece of packaging rather than 2, which you have right now with the bag in the box. So I think that would stand out a little bit more because it has the gable top and you can do a lot more creative things with the print. So that would be one. I think you could start to get a little bit, if you had some of the more premium brands, even doing like a glass or a metal reusable combined with the bag section. So if you wanted to buy like a really nice container that's going to stand out on the shelf, and then, even if it just had like a lid that you could open up and then scoop your cereal in, I know that would be a different way of going about instead of pouring it, but we do it with oatmeal, which is a breakfast cereal. I don't think it would be all that weird to have like a spoon to scoop it in. So that could be another one.
Oatmeal comes in a cylinder.
Yeah.
Right?
Like a paper tube.
Yeah. What's that guy's name? The old fashioned, the Quaker guy.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like a tube with a plastic cap. That exists.
You could
That'd be
totally do that.
That would totally break that aisle.
Think about the coffee aisle as well. They have the big giant bags of coffee that are sealed at the top. You could do something like that, and that's pourable. And they're filled up. There's not a lot of whatever the word is, not headspace, slack fill. So you can probably fit more on the shelf. It's in a gusseted bottom. So it's not going to be like the stand-up pouch, but it's a flat bottom. It's going to sit there. That'd be another form factor I think that could be explored with cereal. You just need to walk around the aisle or the grocery store, honestly, and see what people are doing and then replicate that. I mean, could you pour cereal into a milk jug, like a plastic milk jug, so that you had your milk jug of cereal and your milk jug of milk? You can pour them together. I don't know.
I'm not opening my bill too small.
Make it bigger. You're not going to have like the exact milk thing unless it was like grape nuts or something like that.
No, but that's a great point. One, go down all the other aisles, because those things are obviously working and they're working at scale, right? Anything that's like a liquid product, or that's a different type of a machine to fill. But it doesn't mean that it's impossible, but at least it's a question that you can ask. Everybody does a box and the bag because that bag is just a flow wrap. It's just, there's millions of these bags pumping out and then it goes into a box. Fully automated, box is sealed, packed, shipped. There's probably like one guy smoking a cigarette in the corner that's pushing a button that handles all of these.
He's been there for 35 years. His name is Roger.
That's right. But yeah, like look at what other people are doing in the snack aisle. That's a great place to go look, right? Like Goldfish. It's a big milk jug, milk carton. What else? You can change the shape. Yeah, the aisle is set a certain way so that you've got a a vertical box, why not make a horizontal version, even just a shorter, wider one? You'll take up more space. It'll cost you more money, but it'll definitely break the shelf. Going into a cylinder, that will change things. Just like, yeah, I mean, just get out there and look. There's so many different options.
Think about even like popcorn kernels. They're in kind of like the pourable. It's got a really big opening. They're in kind of a pourable jug format. You know, there's stuff like that. Rice bags would be another one that could be kind of a cool differentiator on shelf. Or even like a square. Imagine if you did a Minecraft collab and you made it sort of like a square box, and you could stack two, like one on top of the other, and it would be deeper on the shelf, but you could, even something like that would stand out, right?
100%. You know what? Even Dude Wipes. Like Dude Wipes is a plastic horizontal pack with that snap top. If we go bigger on that snap top, you can pop that up and then scoop it out and pour it out. I don't know.
Yeah.
If that doesn't make sense. But it's like, again, it's like you start thinking, and really that snap top is really what Wheaties did on their reusable 2-pound box of cereal that I did a breakdown of. It was terrible. It was super heavy. The 2-pound box of cereal is a little too heavy to maneuver. The snap top was a lot. It had a really weird waxy feeling to it, but at least they're trying something new. And I think it was like $12 plus shipping, because you're shipping 2 pounds of cereal.
Right. By the way, Dude Wipes and Raisin Bran would be the best cereal collaboration. Just it'd be like, what was that old SNL skit? It's like Colon Blow or something like that.
That'd be rad.
Yeah.
I'd say the one box that stood out on shelf, if we're just looking at boxes, when I went to AJ's, was a better for you cereal called 3 Wishes. Now they had 3 different flavors. It was the exact same box, but the color was different on the flavor. And there was like a little image on the front. So it was like, if it was cocoa, then it had like a little bit of chocolate on it. If it was fruity, that'd have like little fruits on the front. But it was the same thing. It's like grain-free cereal, 3 Wishes, more protein, less sugar, gluten-free, makes it really clear. And the only reason it stood out was the color and then just the boldness of the logo. But it's still not great. It's still not great. And I don't necessarily know, again, do we really need that much protein? And it's not like this cereal contains protein, like a natural protein. They're basically just putting protein powder that you can buy on your own into the food.
Yeah, that's all it is. But I mean, I think about there is a push, at least that I've heard, to like consume your body weight in protein every day, which is literally, have you heard this? It's so hard. It's like,
no, dude. No. I think it's like an ounce per pound or something. It can't be, you cannot be consuming 200 pounds of protein.
No. Yeah. No, not pounds. That's insane. No. Yeah. It's like, it's the equivalent of grams. That's what it is. So it's like, if you're 200 pounds, then eat 200 grams of protein in a day. Yeah. And that's a lot.
Yeah. That's if you're fit.
No, that's like to like maintain. I mean, that's to like lose weight or whatever it is. It's the next, it's a new thing, whatever. Because to do that, you would have to eat so healthy, like, or just be pounding protein shakes, which sounds gross, but like you'd have to have like 10 protein shakes in a day if you were 200 pounds.
No, not necessarily, but I think
yes, you would.
You don't want to eat all your you don't want to take all your protein from cereal.
No, of course not.
You'll blow up, and I think that's the confusion. People are like, oh, it's got protein, I'm going to shove it in.
Yeah.
But would you go to McDonald's and they're like, do you want us to put protein powder in your Coke?
That's
that's basically what they're doing.
On next week's episode of Packaging Unboxed, protein fueled Oreo Coke flavor.
I don't know, man. So you know what I didn't see? I didn't see any labels on any of these packs.
You know what? That hurts
because it's not packaging.
It hurts a lot.
But all right. So how could a brand use labels on packaging to make it more interesting?
You will see labels when it comes to like instant redeemable coupons are considered part of the label family.
Mhm.
And so
But
that
those are cheap, right? Not cheap. Those are savings. How do we use labels to make it
correct.
more interesting and not be like, oh, it's cheap. You're poor.
So one idea might be to lean into what Coke did with their Share a Coke campaign. So if you're going to have a cereal brand and you want it to be, maybe it's Life cereal and it's, you have you have a bunch of different names on the boxes and you can slap labels on the outside of those. You can make them out of paper. They can blend in pretty well. It would be like a short term kind of thing, but it could have the same sort of virility that Coke got with their Share a Coke campaign. So that would be one way, is to create variability without losing the scale of production on the boxes. Just adds a secondary step, which is putting a label on there. I don't know. Maybe you could have labels that sort of act as like shelf talkers, where they sort of are applied to the top and then kind of like flop over a little bit to highlight some new thing that you want to talk about. Just don't put made with, now made with all natural ingredients.
Now made with healthy ingredients.
Now we're now healthy. Everybody buy us now.
We're cancer free now.
Sucks if you bought us then. So yeah, I think there's some stuff that can be done there. You could also do like a scratch and sniff and custom blend your own, kind of scent if you wanted to do something like that. I don't know. That would be, it would at least create, you could even use, if you're scared of the UV inks printed directly on the box, you could create a label that has, holographic type stuff or just something to draw the eyes away from the normalcy that is just the matte, finished, so, just non-glossy matte finished boxes that are everywhere. So you could do some interesting things with that.
If you're a better for you brand and you're trying to design packaging, taking just a cue from Liquid Death, and like when I had Mike Cesario on, the one thing he said is like, why does the brands that are shitty for you have all the fun in the packaging and the design and the marketing? And if it's a better for you product, it's all about like what your mom thinks and how safe it is and like pretty colors. It's like the kids want the aggressive, fun stuff.
Yeah.
Just do that and make it better for you. You don't have to play in this aisle. And if I look
You
at
think
like
Magic Spoon has done that?
Magic Spoon is like too safe.
You think so?
It's not, it doesn't look like Captain Crunch or some of these other products that are not better for you.
It's pretty like their branding is pretty aggressive though. It's not.
No,
I mean, the color schemes are like bright and high energy.
It's like Three Wishes, the same thing. Like there's bright color, but it's not like big, bold, character driven design with like, large type. But again,
have you seen Magic Spoon? Do you know what I'm talking about? Because that's literally 100%. The front of their box is a big giant character riding like a unicorn, eating.
Let me pull up Magic Spoon. The last time I saw, that's not a character. That's like a Gen Z
brain rot.
Yeah, for sure.
I think they're the closest thing to what you're describing, and maybe they're not, far enough in.
I think we can take it further.
Yeah, so maybe they need a slight redesign, but they're heading the right direction, don't you think?
Yeah, but again, I think we can take it further. Like, there's no bowl of cereal on this box. And if we look at all the crappy cereals, they all have a bowl of cereal, right? They've got an iconic character. This is not an iconic character, right? This is a woman in a tank top. Well,
the other one is the astronaut that looks like they're out of the Wallace and Gromit Chicken Run.
See, not iconic. If I saw those guys on anything else, it could be any brand.
Hey, but Zoom Info says they're doing $50 million a year, so they're doing something right.
What's Cinnamon Toast Crunch doing?
More than that.
Yeah.
But they've been around for a while, and it's a bit more niche, right? Like Cinnamon Toast Crunch is cheap to manufacture. It's the manufacturing process has been around for a while. Magic Spoon is like all the best for you stuff. It's got carries a really high price point, and they're selling, and I think they're even I think their sales are growing.
Magic Spoon at my grocery store. I do see Magic Spoon, but I see it in the clearance section. So it's like a $10 cereal.
That's fake news. That's such fake news.
Not 100. Not. I will send you. I will show a photo. I think you're right. I think it's time for us to kind of maybe ditch the box completely. Move into the bags. The bags have a great display. They've got a great display section, and the bags are in there, so the display is consistent. And then you've got the bag with the clear bag. You see the product. I think that really stands out. I think more brands should just move into that.
What about like a bin, like an acrylic bin for your one spot, and people just bring in their own stuff, or they just get a clear bag and they fill it up? Is that too granola?
That feels like, I don't know. I feel like the cereal would be dry.
Yeah, you're probably right. Well, yeah. I mean, if it already is dry, what do you want? Wet cereal?
It'd be stale.
Stale. Yeah. Okay, there you go.
Yeah, it'd be stale. It'd be kind of gross.
That's probably fair.
We've got a peanut butter churning machine at our grocery store, where you buy the peanuts and you pour them in the machine, and then it squeezes out and you get it into a container. I would never buy that. That machine looks disgusting. People will like run their finger along it and put it in their mouth. People are gross.
How is that?
You've seen those videos of like the lady taking her shoe off and scratching her foot and then grabbing the fruit off the, produce section. Yeah, people are disgusting.
Nasty. So, let's not do that. Let's not have a churning station for milk for your cereal. Let's just buy the milk.
But yeah, I think it's an opportunity for brands, the better for you brands, to move into something a little bit more aggressive, change it up, and be the first. Don't just do what everybody else is doing. Don't try to look healthy. Just try to look fun. That's what kids want. And I think you're fine on protein.
Correct.
And the term is slack fill. It's the empty space in packaging that's not filled with product, specifically food. But there's also a non-functional slack fill term, which is empty space that serves no purpose. That's the one that's misleading.
Got it. So it's not called headspace.
Headspace is for product.
I know. All right. I was wrong and you were right. I'm the worst. You're the best. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
I'll take the L and move along.
Don't forget it.